Hey,
Huh?
lovely. Thank you so much for being patient with me.
Oh, pleasure.
I've been really struggling with some anxiety stuff, but I
Yeah.
super appreciate you making the time for me. And I actually saw you at a burlesque performance earlier this year.
Did you?
I did. I did.
Oh,
Me
what
and my
was it? What was
girlfriend.
that?
I think it was BB's, maybe. I was invited by a friend, and she was like,
Yeah.
Maddie, you have to come to this, get out of the house. And I saw you perform, and I was just like, oh my God, this
Oh,
person, yeah, you're like incredible.
oh, you're so kind, mate. I'm here in
Honestly.
trackies and yeah, just really like fulfilling the fantasy for you.
No, hey, that's all good. That's why I've just made it just audio. So,
Perfect. I appreciate that.
yeah, I can't be bothered dressing up either. So don't worry about
Absolutely
it.
not. No, it's
But
it's the Zoom era.
yeah, but I was literally watching you and I was just like, oh my, and I was watching all the other performers too. And I was just like, wow, these people just have like the most incredible confidence and the ability to like tell a story. Because I'd never been to a burlesque performance before.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I was just left there feeling so inspired. So that's why I contacted you. So
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I
yeah,
really also I love the idea that you can do an activity and it impacts you like in your day-to-day life as well. Like I like to think and I hope that that little bit of confidence that the students and the performers have on stage, like they can carry it into a work meeting or like a really intense life situation or whatever it is they need to do to just kind of puff out their chest and just fake it for a little minute. Because yeah, you definitely don't have confidence when you start. The confidence comes after. You do it scared, and then it comes after.
yeah, I could imagine. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, yeah. I'm like trying not to apply it too much to my own personal
Yeah.
life
Oh,
right now,
look,
but
absolutely. And like I get nervous every single time I perform, whether it's like, 1,000 people in the audience or more, or 10 people at a bar. Sometimes the bar is more scary. But yeah, I still get nervous. So I really apply the, stay scared, do it anyway kind of ethos every time I get on
yeah,
stage.
yeah. Feel the fear, and if you fall down in the
Absolutely.
arena, it's okay. You can just get back up.
Look, if you fall down, big smile, boobs out, everyone loves it.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming onto my little
Oh,
podcast,
pleasure.
which is 1-800 Bad Butt, and coming to talk with me. Just to start off, tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Lila Luxx. I am a full-time burlesque performer, teacher, producer, and general dog's body at Bombshell Burlesque and the Bombshell Burlesque Academy in Brisbane. I'm super lucky to be able to share this art form professionally now for 13 years. I've been working in burlesque, and yeah, it brings me great joy. And I'm really excited to share it with you.
I love that. I love that you've been doing it full time for so long.
Yeah.
That makes my
Yeah.
creative soul just feel so happy.
Well, look, the first few years of doing burlesque, I was still working a full-time job. I had a full-time government finance job because I had studied arts. I have a HEX debt. I will never pay down arts. But I was like, better get a proper job. Better get a proper job because you can't make money in the arts. And, I didn't want to be a burden on my family, all these things that go through your head when you're like, better be an adult. So I got a finance job and it was still in the arts. So I was really lucky that I got to do, you know, a boring job in an area that I really, really loved. And I didn't intend to do burlesque as work at all. I just went along to a class and loved it. And, the opportunity came up only maybe a year later for me to take over the school. And my mentor, Love Iola Vixen, who started, it was called the Bombshell Burlesque and Beauty Academy. She saw something in me that I hadn't quite yet. So I stayed scared and did the thing. So so here we are now. But yeah, just kind of like, I'm not going to say it's, you know, people want to have platitudes and be like, oh, you know, if you're really passionate about it, you can make it work. Or, you know, if you're like really apply yourself, you can make art your job. You can, but sometimes it's also just dumb luck. And I had a lot of really dumb luck. So I'm super, super grateful for that. And the other thing that I have that I think makes it work for me is that I've been lucky enough over the years to assemble an incredible team of artists that work with me that Bombshell Burlesque wouldn't exist without. So teachers, creatives, photographers, marketing people, just so many different individuals that the sum of that is Bombshell Burlesque. So it does take a village, and I'm really, really thankful for mine.
Yeah. And just on that note as well, for anybody who's listening, you can just go and do burlesque dance classes.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Come and do it as a hobby. Come and do it as like your 1 hour a week of joy and nonsense. Because, yeah, as we get older and we get our very responsible finance jobs, we stop playing and we stop expressing ourselves and we stop doing silly things. And burlesque is really silly, like super, super silly. Yeah, at its core, it's nonsense. And I'm about that. And I just feel like everyone needs just like a little bit of nonsense in their life. And that's what I'm here to provide.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, I can relate to you a lot because during COVID, I saw a loss of a lot of my business as an artist. And then now I work a government job, but I work in child protection part-time.
Wow, that must be so intense. Wow. So you really have that weight of, you know, doing something so important in your day job, you know, like having a release in any kind of art form, whether it's burlesque or something else, that must be amazing for you and super helpful. It's cheaper than therapy sometimes.
Well, it is. And it's a therapeutic organization that I work for. But I actually met my bosses through a workshop that I did for Brisbane Street Art Festival.
Amazing.
And then they took me on when I was like, I don't have any work. What should I do? And then they helped me out. But I can relate to you in the sense that like my art is that silly nonsense thing that I do to let go and to release. And I think it's so important for people to be able to have that at any capacity, no matter what they do in their actual lives.
Yes, absolutely.
Stress just builds up, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like too, you know, particularly at the moment, you turn on any media and it's all negative. It's all really negative. There's no way out. Nothing can be done. The planet's dying. The economy's crashing. Everyone's racist. So what can you do to kind of protect yourself? And you know, a lot of the classes that we do at Bombshell Burlesque, a lot of them are very social in nature. We come along, we have a social time, we have a chat with like-minded people, we just be silly for an hour, and we don't have to worry or consider those really intense things that, you know, the 24-hour news cycle just absolutely pounds us with all of the time. You know, like our little brains are built to live in one cave. We can only handle the amount of information that says, you know, there's a mastodon outside your particular cave. And now we get all of this information all of the time about, you know, every threat to every cave in the entire world. And our little lizard brains just can't. So sometimes our little lizard brains just need 1 hour to be little lizards with some feathers on.
Yeah. Just let that amygdala just chill out.
Absolutely. Just give her a break for 1 minute.
No, totally. I feel that right now.
Right?
So let's go back to you. I have set these questions up as like beginning journey, middle journey, and then end journey.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll flow well, but I hope we can touch on
let's
them
give
all.
it a go. And I will definitely like ramble and go off topic because of who I am as a person.
That's okay. That's the whole
Great.
purpose. So that's all
Good,
right.
good.
So how did you discover your passion for burlesque and what inspired you to become a burlesque dancer in the beginning?
So I was not someone who woke up one day and was like, this is it. Burlesque is my path. My background's in theatre and in commercial dance. I did not think I would be dancing at nearly 40. I did not think I would be doing any kind of art for work because, it doesn't pay the bills, get a real job. Are you sure that's what you want to do with your life, et cetera, et cetera. But I went to a class with a friend and I continued. They didn't. And it was just enjoyable. And I loved that I could go and do this movement class, this theatre class, this performance class without any of the pressure of, what I had coming from a commercial dance background of auditions and, really high pressure. It was really bitchy. It was really nasty. People weren't lifting each other up, like quite the opposite. It was pretty cutthroat. And what I also loved about it was that I could start to leave behind, and it did take me some time, but I could leave behind all of the really toxic body image things that were really built in and probably still are to some extent built into commercial dance. Whereas there was always someone, thinner than you. There was always someone younger than you. And that was seen as a threat and not something to be celebrated. So I loved that I could just be in my body as it is, as it changes, as it ages, and appreciate what it can still do, regardless of whether or not, it fits in a size 6 sample costume, which it's really disheartening to say now, but you could be the most amazing dancer in the world. But when I was going through that audition process, this is like the 2000s, if you weren't absolutely tiny with washboard abs, you were not booking that job. I hope some of that has shifted now. But really just having that expression that's truly yours as well. Burlesque is really DIY. So yeah, there was a lot that drew me to it, but it was all a total accident.
And yeah, I think I can understand as a woman. I mean, I was that 19, 18-year-old who was like a size 4.
Yes.
And then I hit like 24 and I started to put on weight. I was also taking medication at the time, which
aren't we
helped,
all?
and so I can understand how, and from watching burlesque for the first time when I saw you, all the different body shapes that were there.
Absolutely.
And it really, like, even though I feel like I've overcome a lot of my body confidence issues and things like, I mean, it still happens,
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
But seeing that and being like, wow, these people are really like taking on all of their like curves and beauty and channeling that into like a really almost sexy but funny and playful way.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never much of a dancer, but I couldn't imagine the 2000s either. I just think
it. But that's also the wonderful thing too about burlesque is that if you're someone that loves performing, but maybe you didn't have access to dance training or theatre training or whatever you wanted to do as a child, there's no barriers to coming along and joining in a class. You don't have to have any kind of training. You just have to have the desire to want to do it. So I think I love that inclusivity. It's probably an overused word, but I really do feel like anyone who wants to do burlesque can do it. And I love that.
Yeah. So I do have a question here about confidence, and then it goes into body positivity, but I might ask the body positivity one first.
Yes, sure.
So burlesque shows and celebrates body positivity and diversity. How do you encourage body positivity among your audience and fellow performers and also students?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing that we can do at this stage is representation. is celebrating different bodies in our professional lineups, having all sorts of different gender identities, different, just absolutely all different kinds of humans on stage. And my hope with that is that someone in the audience like yourself can see someone on stage and be like, oh, that's my body. That's my body up there. And just seeing that body reflected back at me and being celebrated and literally, put in a spotlight, being put up on stage for everyone to adore. Maybe I could do that. Or even if I don't want to get up on stage, maybe I can just feel a little bit better in my skin when I get dressed tomorrow. Maybe, whatever little niggle I don't love about my body today, maybe that negative self-talk, maybe that just gets turned it out a tiny bit. Maybe you put on a fitted wiggle dress and you're like, oh gosh, my tummy. But then you think, oh no, well, there was that person on stage last night and they had a little tummy too, and they were still really fucking hot. So maybe I can just wear this and not get caught up in, whatever I've been taught. Maybe I can have that second thought that's positive after that ingrained thought that's so negative.
Yeah. I do actually remember, and I don't want this to be like a negative point, but I do remember when I was watching you guys perform, there was some guys behind me who were cracking jokes and stuff about the performance.
Always.
And I actually turned around and told them to shut the fuck up.
Good. I love that.
So, and when me and Greta were having cigarettes out the front, they were out there and they were clearly quite drunk. And we were just like, dude, you need to turn it down. Like, keep the banter for the car on the drive home. You don't need to be spreading that here.
Yeah.
So to turn that into a positive, I think if anybody goes to those shows and hears people saying things,
tell them to get the fuck out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable to, let the producers know, let the staff know, because we will remove them. And I have removed people in the past. I think I'm going to generalize wildly, but based on the people that I've had to remove from my shows this year, it's often straight male partners, straight male friends. I'm generalizing in a big way here. But I feel like because this little burlesque bubble that we've created is so loving and so celebratory, I feel like they are almost, what's the word?
Threatened.
They're challenged. Yeah, they're threatened. Yeah. They see that, their worldview is not the center of the world, that other people do exist in it and can have love, even if, it's not to their standards. And again, I'm generalizing, but these men, they're not to my standards. So I feel like it comes from a real place of insecurity that they make these kinds of comments. And it's really sad. It's really sad. There's been a couple of instances where it has been partners, and I've pulled the performer aside and said, hey, do not go home and have sex with that man. Because if he's talking like that about other women, he's thinking that about you at the very least. He's just shown his whole ass, and that is not a person to be trusted. Again, this is a wild generalization on my part, but I stand by it. So I do feel like there are those people who aren't ready to accept that other people exist in the world and are quite threatened by having a kinder world because they don't understand their place in it yet. They haven't figured out how to love their own body, and so they have to push back and project onto other people that self-hate that they have about themselves.
Yeah, I think you've just tied that up into a really beautiful bow. I was thinking in my head, oh my God, I should bring this up, and then I'm like, maybe I don't.
No, absolutely. That's it. Yeah, always let someone know. And yeah, if you're feeling up to it, definitely correct them. Definitely.
Oh, I'm always ready to tell a man when he's wrong. Don't you
absolutely.
worry.
And you can just tell, generalizing, but sometimes you can just tell by looking at a man that no one has told them to shut the fuck up in their entire life. And maybe you get to be the first.
And it's fun. But of course, if you don't feel safe, don't do it.
Absolutely, don't do it. That's it.
We're not pushing you to do anything that you don't feel comfortable with.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah, but definitely let someone know. We want everyone to be comfortable at shows, you know. So if something's happening, whether it's that or something else, yeah, flag it. Flag it with a person that looks like they work there, and they will sort it out. Absolutely, they will.
Or even better, tell a drag queen if she's there, because they
Oh,
love
my goodness.
doing that.
My goodness. Tell the MC.
Yeah.
Because what those people who are, you know, flinging foul things, they will unravel if an MC gets a hold of them.
Yes. Yes.
Suddenly
Also,
not so brave.
can I ask a question? Because I just flagged this in my head. Do we still call drag queens, or we call them something else?
So it depends on the performer.
Okay.
Just like everything else, people can choose what they want to label themselves as. So you'll have generally drag queens. So that could be AMAB, AFAB humans who perform as drag queens. You also have drag kings that are generally more mask presenting in character, not necessarily who they are, you know, in their day-to-day life. And then you've got people who just identify as performance artists. So yeah, and I'm sure that there is more nuance to that, but that's my understanding of it at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, cool. No, I don't have much exposure to that side of the world, so I
Yeah.
thought I would double check.
Yeah.
As you always should. So my next question is about confidence. So confidence is a significant part of burlesque. How do you maintain your confidence both on and off stage? And what advice do you have for others looking to boost their self-assurance?
Yeah, for sure. So my main thing is what I said earlier. Be scared and do it anyway. I know that's really like, it's so unhelpful because you just want like just a quick mantra, or you just pop this foundation on and you're totally confident. You can do anything, you know, like simple things. Maybe there's like a celery diet that gives you confidence. No, unfortunately. I think the main thing is to acknowledge that you have some fear. You know, you can figure out where that fear comes from. It might just be generic nerves, and that's fine. But the key difference between someone who doesn't have confidence and someone who does is that they may feel exactly the same, but the person with confidence will do the thing, even if they're terrified of it. And I still to this day am always so nervous before I walk on stage, so nervous. And that's not particularly confident, but I get on stage and do it anyway. Sometimes at the end, I'm like, oh yeah, this is fun. But it's always at the end. It's always like I'm walking off stage. It's like, oh, I could have enjoyed that, but I was very nervous. So I think the confidence comes after. The confidence comes after, you know? So no magic bullet, but stay scared and do it anyway.
Yeah. And I think nerves just means that you care.
Absolutely.
It's just like you want to do well. And
absolutely.
You know, and you can definitely harness that power some way, you know?
Absolutely. I can't imagine. Yeah, I absolutely can't imagine getting to a point where I could just walk on stage with no nerves. And I think if I did, it's exactly what you said. It would probably mean that I don't care anymore and it's time for me to quit. I can't imagine either of those situations happening at this point. But yeah, I think that the real key thing is the doing it anyway. That's the key. Yeah. Yeah. We're all scared. Some people are just better at hiding it.
Yeah. And I think a good technique that I've learned from my therapist is to do belly breaths, which is breathing with your belly.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And none of these shallow, like,
oh, definitely.
You gotta breathe in your belly.
Yeah.
And just like, you know,
definitely. And there's some great like you know, breathing exercises for sure. There's some really cute little mantras that you can say to yourself. There's one which I thought was particularly cute, where if you acknowledge that you're nervous, you tell yourself you're excited, because nerves and excitement are closer together than nerves and calm. So rather than being like, I'm so nervous, I'm excited, and kind of try and pump yourself up even more to harness it in a positive way. I don't know if that one works because that's what I've just come across. I think it was very cute. But yeah, definitely breathing exercises. And, you know, in terms of burlesque, performing confidently for me comes from rehearsal, knowing what I'm doing, knowing exactly what's happening as much as I can, knowing my song, knowing my steps, knowing my costume, so that when it inevitably goes wrong, I can recover without panicking because it will go wrong at some point. So, you know, preparation, but yeah, always just a little bit scared, a healthy amount of scared. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what are some ways that the audience can give confidence to a performer in burlesque? Because I know that there was the rules about like the wooing
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything like
Yeah,
that.
we love audiences that are engaged and making noise. If you see something that you like, scream your head off, clap, cheer. We love it. Love it, love it, love it. All about that. We definitely want you to be engaged. Put your phone down, watch with your eyes, give us feedback immediately in the moment. You see a hand, you're like, wow, that is the hottest naked hand I've seen since I looked at my own a minute ago, which is also naked because we don't wear gloves. It's fine. But we want you to make absolutely crazy noise the entire time. I love that. I'm about that.
Okay. And what are
Yeah.
the rules around taking photos? Are people allowed to
So
take photos?
it depends show to show and the nature of the performance and the comfort levels. So for our student shows, we don't have any photography allowed because we are aiming to create a safe space for our artists to express themselves. And when they go home, they have all sorts of jobs, and some of them can't have anything deemed risque on the internet. So we want to protect them. But there are definitely more commercial shows that encourage taking photos and popping up hashtags. So just listen along to your MC and they'll clue you in.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I was like, I think the only thing I took a photo of at that thing was the MC. And
Perfect.
they were in drag, but they had like I think they were a king drag.
Amazing.
Wait,
Amazing.
drag king. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just thought they were beautiful. It was just like, oh my God.
Right?
But yeah, like the whole time you're so like into the show, like how could you be on your
Yeah.
phone? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Absolutely. That's it. It's very, very live, you know, like you're probably not going to watch that back on your phone in 2 days, let
No.
alone 10 minutes after, for real. So yeah, so we just love engagement. We love noise. We love positive validation.
Yeah. I just remember having like the sorest throat the next day from
Yeah.
like literally
Yeah.
like
Sounds like
screaming
you
my
did
head
it
off.
correctly. Yeah.
Okay, so I have so many questions on this thing. I've
That's
lost my
so
train of
fine.
thought. I'm
I've
so
I also
sorry.
forgot to mention I've also got a discount code for your listeners for our
Oh,
virtual academy as well.
yeah, you can plug that right now
Forgot about
if you
that.
want. Yeah, go for it.
For
Tell us about it.
sure. Yeah. So if you are a nervous human and you don't want to go into a class in person straight up, or you're just a busybody, not a busybody, that sounded bad, not like a nosy person, you're just busy. You're booked, you're blessed, you're doing things, you don't have time to make it to a class. We have started the virtual Bombshell Burlesque Academy, which has so much content that you can jump in and out as you need. There are 2 big knowledge bundles, the pink bundle and the purple bundle, and both of them are great. If you just want to get a taste of everything, you can just try out fans and hairstyling and getting on stage for the first time and chair dance and all sorts of stuff in those bundles. But then we also have a whole bunch of like individual modules that we've just made available individually. They've got things like pasty making, assel making and adhering. There's a massive costuming bundle, so everything you want to know, you could fully make head to toe your own burlesque costume right there, as well as a fan masterclass. So if you've never picked up feather fans before, we got you. And we've also got something that's really important that I think anyone who's performing should be across is cultural appropriation in burlesque, which is really important that we create in a safe way. So we've got so much knowledge. You can literally access it anywhere. You have lifetime access to it.
I'll put it in the show notes so
Yes.
people can access it. But
Mate,
you can
I
say the
appreciate you.
URL now if you'd like, just so people know.
Delicious. If you would like to jump in. I've got a special discount code for September. We've got 20% off everything at virtual.bombshellacademy.com.au/shop. So everything I've just spoken about, 20% off for all of September with the code MAD20. So MAD20. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love this. This is such a surprise.
Look, we love presents. We love presents. And I didn't even know it was your birthday. So happy birthday.
Oh, I love
saving
this.
for your birthday.
Let's plug on the potty. I'm so into it.
Yes, I'm all about it. I just like, again, that joy of absolute nonsense. And, I understand getting to classes is hard physically, but also like, we endured a global trauma with COVID. So like just being in spaces with people is anxiety inducing. Doing new things is anxiety inducing. So if you want to jump on one of these, either individual modules or a whole bundle, and just kind of dip your foot in without any kind of pressure, no time constraints. You can feel it out. You can figure out if you want to do more burlesque. You can figure out what kind of burlesque you want to do without physically having to be at any specific place at any specific time, which I'm about.
Incredible. I love this. This is like I just paused my gym membership for 2 weeks because I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to the gym in 2 weeks.
Right.
But I can't do it online. So
there you go. That's it. Exactly it. Yeah.
Oh man, wrapping up your 20s is crazy though. Like all the loose ends you gotta fucking tie up and shit.
Oh
anyway.
Yeah, but get ready because your 30s is way better than your 20s. 20s is clown shoes, so don't even worry about that. We're done with that. Bye. Sorry to everyone in the 20s right now. 30s is way better, and I've heard amazing things about your 40s. I'm ready to reach new levels of don't give a fuck. Like I'm so ready to care even less. I'm there.
Oh my God. Can I just say that I think that you would be such an incredible mentor?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's kind of like ramble a lot. So I'm glad you find joy.
No, I honestly do. Like whoever you mentor in your work or whatever, they're super lucky to have you. Just FYI.
Oh, thank you so much. I don't mentor anyone formally. I try and help out so many different people. There is a little bit of a culture of, buying time with a mentor, and I definitely sell private lessons and consults and things like that. But in terms of long-term mentoring, definitely ask me questions. I love it. But I also love the idea of like a community all sharing ideas. So everyone gets like this hive mind of burlesque knowledge, because I definitely don't know everything. I know very little sometimes. So I'm about, people like talking to a whole different, you might have someone who's really into this style of performance, but maybe someone else has this incredible business background, or maybe this person really knows what they're doing with grants or something like that. So I'm very into having lots of different people that you bounce things off. I think it makes us so much richer that way.
Yeah, culture is super important.
Yeah,
very important.
Absolutely.
So my next question is, the burlesque community is known for inclusivity and support. How has being a part of this community influenced your journey as a performer?
Oh gosh, in a massive way. So the team at Bombshell Burlesque are just, I'm so lucky. They're amazing. They're all world-class performers in themselves, world-class photographers. My world wouldn't look like what it does now without them. So being able to be either in that way of just, asking questions, getting feedback, working with them in a very, direct way, but also burlesque in Australia is at a really incredible level. It's a really high level. We often have artists that perform at Burlesque Hall of Fame in Las Vegas. They're gold standard artists in Australia. So being able to see other people doing that and achieving that is so inspiring. You can't help but be like, yes, that is the level that we're operating at. I'm going to step up to there. So I feel like there's this like beautiful exchange of inspiration that happens. And I really take so much from that. I think I would just, if I hadn't had that exposure to other people, like burlesque probably would have stopped at like a pair of frilly knickers and some like, you know, pleaser platforms, bordellos, and I would have been done. But, you know, you start there and you see more incredible things happening and people, you know, bringing in different art forms and different diverse takes on what burlesque is. And that makes everyone so much more interesting. And it really inspires me. Probably overusing the word inspire at this point, but it's the truth.
It's okay. I'm inspired by so much stuff. No, but when I went and saw you perform, I was like, oh my God. Because I always thought that like burlesque was really like kind of exclusive and like you kind of had to be in the know and like, and I love like old Hollywood glamour and like the 1940s and 50s and 60s. And since I went and saw you perform with all those other beautiful performers, I was just like, oh, wait, it's actually really inclusive.
Absolutely.
Like, and I don't know why I had this notion that like you had to be in the know, like it was some like 1920s, like, you know.
Well, initially the golden age of burlesque, and that's what some performers really still do, that revival form of vintage burlesque. So that idea of like a gorgeous, glamorous, usually woman, came from the origins of burlesque, which is parody. So what they were doing, they were dressing up in these amazing gowns and gloves and stoles, and their parody came from taking the piss out of the upper classes. So it was like really scandalous for them to take off layers of clothes. And that was where the parody element came from. So that's that high glamour, beautiful vintage visage of burlesque that you've seen before. And it's really popular. It's Dita Von Teese. It's beautiful, glamorous pin-up looks. The origin of that is in Golden Age burlesque, which is parody. So those generally women were dressing up like upper class ladies, going to the opera in gloves and stoles. And the parody, the taking them down a peg, was taking that off in public, even down to things like they would take a hat off and take their hair out. And that was very scandalous because at the time, proper ladies only had their hair out if they were going to bed with someone. So to see someone flick their hair around wildly on stage was really raunchy. Ooh. Really raunchy, right? So that's that style of burlesque that you've seen. Definitely still exists. Very revival burlesque, very Dita. It's beautiful. I love it. It's so glam and delicious. But then we've kind of explored it, it's exploded, it's melded with other art forms, and you can just straight up be a clown if you want, and all variations of that in between. So we love narrative, we love comedy, we love all sorts of circus and other elements of other performance, and that's what I think makes burlesque so interesting now. We do have the high glamour, and we also have the high nonsense.
Yeah, lovely. So what kind of performance would you say that you do?
I do a lot of nonsense in a nice frock. So yeah, I do love a glamorous outfit, but it's not necessarily that serious. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm like, I didn't realize there was so much to know about burlesque. I should have done more research.
That's so fun. Well, look, if you want, you can jump on the virtual academy. There's a whole section on history. Yeah, it'll get you up to speed in no time.
Amazing. And yeah, it's just now I'm just like, wow, Maddie, you're so silly. But no,
not at all. This is one of those things, like, I'm sure you're like me. I love hearing people talk about their niche interest area. Like, it doesn't matter what it is to me. I just want to hear people like talk passionately about the thing that excites them, you know. And there's so much knowledge in the world, and, you know, like niche little things that you would never encounter. And I feel like burlesque is, while it is more mainstream, it's still pretty niche these days, you know. I feel like most people may have seen the movie. They may have seen the movie in their Netflix cue. But they probably haven't pressed play on it. And if they did, they haven't realized that that movie doesn't have a lot of actual burlesque in it. Just Cher looking amazing. Yeah.
I've never seen that movie, so
You know what? You're so fine. There's no burlesque knowledge in it at all. So you're fine. Yeah, haven't missed anything there.
all right, cool. I feel better about that. So what goes into creating a captivating burlesque routine? Can you take us through the creative process from concept to performance?
Oh, yes. Okay. So I teach this in a full 6-week course. So there is a lot. And it's also a lot of different ways because everyone's so individual. Burlesque is really about the individual artist, and that's what makes it magical. So everyone's going to be a little bit different with how they do this. So I think the first thing is to find something that inspires you. There's that word again. And that could be a concept. It could be a story. It could be a piece of clothing, a garment. It could be a song. It could be a character. There's so many things that are going to just light that little creative spark. And then it's a matter of developing what that's going to look like, deciding what's the audience going to take away, what do I want to take away from it as well, and putting it together in such a way that it's structured, it's repeatable, it's viable, because we love doing things that we can, not just fritter away money, especially in this economy.
Yes.
So, there's a lot of choices that go into it, and then a lot of rehearsal once you've locked in all of those choices. There are a lot of artists who do this all on their own. There are also a lot of artists who book private lessons, or maybe they do work with a mentor to kind of refine those details. At the Bombshell Burlesque Academy, we have a masterclass for act creation. And yeah, it has a lot of information. And I think probably the most important thing to keep in mind when you are creating an act is that the first time you perform it is not the end of that creation process. It's only the first step, really, because then if it's good and you like it, it continues to evolve and change and create every time you perform it. So I've got a number of acts that I'm really lucky that I've been performing for more than a decade now. They're definitely not the same acts that I first debuted them as. Some of them have different costumes. Some of them have updated music, but the core of what it means to me has changed. And so how I express that has changed.
Can you give us an example of like what it was, what it's become, and how it's changed as you've changed the person?
Yeah, for sure. So I do an act. It's probably best described as like lyrical movement. It's very soft and flowy and dreamy. And when I first choreographed it, I was very close to coming out of my commercial dance world. And so it was really busy. It had a lot of things. It had a lot of turns, a lot of kicks, a lot of things, busy, busy, busy. And I realized that over the many years of performing burlesque is that some of the most powerful moments and the most wonderful thing you can do sometimes is just to be still and connect with an audience and give them an opportunity to see you and allow them to see you seeing them. And that way you can really have that exchange. So that act that started off, in retrospect, frenzied. I really thought that I was being very low key. It was absolutely too much. I've been able to strip that back. The core concept is still the same, but now there's time for connection and there's time for tease. So it was very much a dance routine. Now it's a burlesque routine.
Nice. So is there like a formula for something to be burlesque? Like, does it have to be like a certain level of tease and like,
It really depends. So if you're talking about like traditional burlesque, definitely you want tease, you want suspense, you want peeling of layers. But really, it's so broad now. Burlesque is at its core, it's parody. So it doesn't have to be what you expect, that same formula of, oh, gloves come off and a shawl comes off. It can be as wild and wacky as you like, as long as it's got parody, and some elements of tease or comedy, it's burlesque.
Okay, amazing. And now that I'm starting to learn that there's all these different types of burlesque,
Absolutely. Yeah.
when people are deciding what kind of performance they want to go and see,
Yeah.
what is like a good indicator of something that's going to fit into what they're expecting? Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, will it
Yeah,
will
absolutely.
it like literally just say this is just pure tease or whatever, or to be
Yes.
like this is comedy?
Yeah,
Or
definitely. So most burlesque shows will be variety. So expect a little bit of everything at all times. But yeah, definitely look at the marketing for the show. It should tell you what's happening. They'll tell you if there's drag in the lineup or if it's maybe a very classic evening of glamorous vintage burlesque. It'll tell you if it's a variety show. It'll tell you if it's professionals or students or a mix of both. So really be guided by that, and also just be open to nonsense and new nonsense, so you might go along and be like, I love the vintage things, but there might be a couple of artists in there that fall outside of that. You're like, oh, actually, that is a good time.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
We love the
cool.
unexpected. We love a surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm like, this is what always happens in these fucking podcasts. I end up talking to someone and then my brain is just like, wow, what you thought was what is not it.
And look, my experience burlesque is only one experience. So, everyone who does it is going to have a different take on it, and they're going to enjoy different parts of it. And I think that's what really makes it wonderful. There's no right and wrong. I don't think there's bad burlesque. I think every kind of burlesque is wonderful and adds to a rich tapestry of nonsense.
I love a bit of nonsense in my day.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna lie. So, what have been some of the most memorable moments of it or experiences in your burlesque career so far, and why do they stand out to you?
Gosh, I've been really lucky. I've had so many. Brisbane's been so kind to me. I'm really, really lucky that I get to work here. Our performance scene in all sorts of performance art, burlesque, drag, music is amazing. It's such a rich scene here. So I'm super, super lucky. So probably highlights would be things like opening a dedicated studio space for Bombshell Burlesque. And then performances, there's been really big ones, like I performed at the Burlesque Hall of Fame twice in Las Vegas, and that was amazing. But also there's been just little moments, little tiny moments that I've just really enjoyed. So even just this year, we did a show based on 90s femme alternative rock. It was called You Oughta Know. And just the joy of doing that show, being surrounded by artists that are incredible, absolutely the inspirational people I was talking about before, and realizing you're in the midst of all of that, that's just, you can't help but feel good. You can't help but enjoy that. Yeah. So I'm so lucky. I could list off 30 things. But yeah, every time, every week that I get to continue to do this is a joy. So yeah.
I love that. And do you keep all of your costumes?
Yeah.
Like, even if you don't fit into them anymore, you're like, whatever, I'm keeping it.
Yeah, that's it. So anything that's been bespoke, or actually most things that have been on stage, I've kept, and I will alter because bodies change. My body has changed in a big way over 13 years. A couple of people have asked me if I kept my first costume. No, because I did not know what I was doing. I had some frilly knickers and a plastic boned corset, and I'd used a hot glue gun to stick, plastic acrylic crystals on it. I really thought I had done something. I really thought I looked amazing. Narrator, it was not amazing. It was a hot mess. It was an absolute hot mess, and it just fell apart almost immediately. which is another reason why we've launched the virtual academy. So no one else has to waste the money and time and blister burns on their fingers to try and figure out how to put rhinestones on things. You don't have to do that. Put the hot glue gun down. So I haven't kept those because no, they were just absolutely terrible and not sustainable. Whereas my costumes for my major routines are all made to be able to be altered, and they grow with me, for lack of a better term. So I still have them all, and I still perform most of them.
I mean, I'm just amazed that you guys can like alter them to fit into like
definitely.
I don't know anything about seamstressing, so
well, I also don't either. So hence the hot glue gun of it all. Yeah, not a sewer at all. So I'm really lucky to work with amazing costumiers who I can just take things back to and be like, my butt doesn't fit in this anymore. She got too powerful. So could you just put a couple extra inches in to allow for my powerful butt? And they're absolutely happy to do that. A lot of burlesque costumes, again, generalizing, but mine anyway, things like corsets, they're made with stretchy fabric, or they are generally pretty forgiving in terms of body shapes. And a corset, makes a great shape on anyone. So cinching in is delicious, 10 out of 10 recommend. But yeah, try and keep things, because they are so made for me and they're so particular to my acts, I do try and keep them in rotation and, just alter them little by little. I will get to a point where I can't alter them anymore because they are just alterations, but I'm not there yet. Yeah, definitely had a couple of costumes that have fallen apart after a number of years. But yeah, for the most part, still have them all.
And what I liked the most, because I'm talking about like showing your breasts and things like that, is that you don't actually have to show any part of your body that you don't want to.
No, that's the magical thing. It's 100% up to you what you do or don't remove. When I first started, I have a really large scar actually on my butt cheek from a melanoma being removed. I'm okay. I was very lucky. But I do have a big scar, and it was an issue for me when I was doing traditional dance. It would get brought up. Since I started burlesque, no one's noticed it, but I was very self-conscious of it when I first started. So I would only perform in a full brief. I got over that pretty quickly because I was like, those G-strings are really hot. But then, I went through a while. I was like, well, I'll only wear a G-string if I'm wearing like industrial fishnets and no one can see it. Little by little, I was like, I don't even care. And now no one can notice it. It's one of those things where it seems so obvious to me, like, how can no one see that scar? But they're not looking at your flaws. They're looking at the overall joy. But I do really love that you do have that agency to be as covered or as not covered as you choose.
Yeah. I did see on your Instagram the other day, you said that you've been using the same pair of stockings.
Yep. Which that's a freak thing. Like, just for that particular set of stockings to last this long, absolutely wild. I don't understand. Now that I've said it, I guarantee you I will get on stage the next time that I use that particular set of stockings and it will just unravel. I've lost count of the number of stockings I've destroyed in rehearsal, like absolutely shredded. Infinite, particularly because I insist on wearing like ridiculously long acrylic nails. And I'm not patient and I'm not careful. So it's a great combo for really delicate things like stockings.
It just adds to the nonsense, doesn't it?
Absolutely it does. So yeah, I almost guarantee that I've jinxed myself with that particular pair of stockings. So I'm doing that act again, actually, in 2 weeks for my 40th birthday, a show called The F Word. With Red Devotchkin, Bibi LaBeouf, and Evie Libertine. We're all 1983 babies. So we're turning fabulous this year. I'm doing that act at that show on the 17th of September, and I guarantee you they will disintegrate on stage because I said it out loud.
That's okay. You're going into a new chapter. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
tying up the loose ends, quite literally.
Indeed.
But we're heading towards the end of the journey now. So, as a burlesque dancer, you face unique challenges and stereotypes. How do you handle misconceptions about your art, and what do you do to overcome them?
Sure. I feel like I'm really lucky at this point because I'm very in a bubble that is very accepting and just open to things that are different. So I'm really lucky. I haven't really encountered anything super negative for a while. There's been a couple of times where it's normally people that are more conservative that have issues with it. So definitely, when we started up trying to book, any hall that was owned by a more conservative group, they didn't want, to hire to us because we're filthy harlots. And, there's also been a few times where, we've been booked for commercial gigs and they're like, yes, 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 we want burlesque. And they actually don't. They want cabaret dancers and they want them to all be, 5'9" and size 6. That's what they want. They want cabaret performers, which is beautiful and a choice, but not what burlesque is generally. Probably the worst instance of that, we were booked for a corporate gig. It was an end of year dinner. The person who booked us, I talked to them at length. They were like, yes, absolutely, we want burlesque. We did the first number and the person who booked us ran backstage and said, you can't perform anymore. The CEO's wife is really upset. Like, okay.
Easy.
We'd been paid in advance. It was fine. They were very apologetic and brought us a lovely dinner. But there's a little bit of that, oh, am I doing something wrong? Is there shame in this? So probably things I've learned is if I don't know who the person is booking me, I am very explicit in what they're booking these days. I've learned that one. I've also learned you get paid up front.
Yeah.
So that if they don't listen or they don't understand, then that becomes a them problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, the biggest thing for me was, family hesitated, because I had danced all my life and they thought that's what I was going to do. And, then I went and I was doing acting. I was doing acting work. So they were like, oh, don't you want to go and do proper dancing again? But I'd had surgery by that point. My body had changed. And no, I actually couldn't, even if I wanted to. I was not going to be booking those gigs anymore. So that was difficult initially. But I was really lucky that the energy within the burlesque community, for lack of a better word, just really validated that I don't have to be responsible for other people's perceptions. I can just do things that bring me joy. And if they're not hurting anyone else, then it's okay to indulge in that. We've got some performers who are very out with their families that they perform burlesque. And all the way on the other end, we've got performers who are even full-time performers and their families have no idea what they do. And people make those choices for a whole range of reasons. But I think the main thing is just understanding that other people's hang-ups don't have to be mine. And I can live my life without, engaging in that. And that's a privilege for me that I'm able to, separate myself from other people's thoughts and feelings. But that's probably the main thing for me, is just understanding that their fears and their misconceptions are not actually about me, and it's really about them. It's their problem.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a quote which is those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind.
Exactly.
So
exactly that. Yeah, exactly
yeah.
that. Yeah, that's it. When I was dating, it made things really easy because if you've got a problem with my job, well, then we're done.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other end of things, there were some people who wanted to date a burlesque dancer and they expected me to look like Dita Von Teese all the time. Sucks for them. I am in trackies full time, so jot that down. But again, their ideas of what I should do or shouldn't do are entirely their issue.
Yeah. That's wild. I wouldn't think that there'd be much stigma to it. I mean, maybe it's just because we're just fucking cool human beings. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's that too. And it's the idea that that super misogynist idea that taking your clothes off, is not empowering. And it very much
Yeah.
is. If that's your choice, doing what you want, whatever it is, whether it's stripping or otherwise, is empowering. That's what empowerment is. So it's this really archaic misogynist view that I'm talking from a woman's perspective, that a woman on stage taking their clothes off is lesser than. Where it's very much my choice, and I'm having a great time and getting paid for it. So
Yeah. And I mean, even if you're a stripper and you enjoy doing it, fucking all the power to you, babe.
Absolutely. And that's it. Burlesque is stripping. Burlesque is striptease. So I feel like anyone that's got issues with it, it's so about them, and it's really showing you who they are and their insecurities.
Yeah. I don't know. I just find it so, like just going back, I don't know. I just find people who judge like sex workers and all that kind of shit. I'm just like, leave them alone, man.
Yeah,
like,
it's nonsense. It's nonsense. Imagine being so bothered about someone else's job.
Yeah.
So bothered about someone else's job. Like it's got nothing to do with you.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's it.
So outside of the stage, do you have any other passions and hobbies that contribute to your creative expression as a burlesque dancer?
So I love information, which is such a weird thing to say, but
she just loves being educated.
I love being educated. I love niche interest areas. Like truly, I love a podcast. I'm a stereotypical white woman in that I love me a true crime podcast. But I also really just love storytelling, listening to people tell stories. And just like this inspiration comes from so many places. I love music, which is, I think who doesn't love music? I don't know. I'm sure someone is like, I don't like it, but that's fine. We don't need to know them. But I love music, and a lot of my inspiration for performing does come from music. So I have a voracious appetite for music. I will just go and look for new music to, spark something. I love listening to new artists and new genres, and I'm definitely not someone who's going to be like, I listen to everything, because I don't. But what I do like is quite broad. And has absolutely no boundaries on it. So if I like it, I like it. Doesn't matter what it is or who's performing it. I'd say that's probably it. Burlesque takes up a lot of my life. So other things I enjoy kind of get absorbed into burlesque, whether it wants to or not.
It's all just a big bundle of nonsense at the end of the day.
Absolutely that. Like I feel like everyone coming out of COVID, everyone ended up with, like 20 favorite podcasts, 40 houseplants, and, a deep appreciation for sourdough. And I feel like that's okay. I feel like that's who we are, In terms of movement, I love taking other classes. I really enjoy Pilates for my body. The Pilates I do is more clinical, and it's about rehab and keeping my body going, because, in terms of a dance timeline, I'm pretty past my expiry date, and I have a lot of injuries just from existing, because we all do. So doing Pilates has been amazing to really keep my body going, and so I can keep doing the thing that I love. Yeah,
I love Pilates. I love reformer Pilates.
Yeah.
Love how strong it makes me feel.
Exactly. That's it. Also, I don't get too sweaty. I really hate being sweaty.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, like burlesque. Do I really want to? I'll be like, I can do a lazy one though.
Exactly.
And finally, before we wrap things up, what advice would you give to aspiring burlesque dancers who are eager to pursue this art form and make their mark on the stage?
Ooh, that's a big one. Learn all you can, any way that you can. go to shows, immerse yourself in the community, watch performances on YouTube, read books, read the burlesque handbook. There's so much information. The internet is an amazing resource. There's infinite information. Even if you come across something or you see an act and you're like, I don't like that, you can learn from that because you take that understanding of what you didn't like or what you didn't agree with, and that informs your own movement as well. You don't have to go to classes, you don't have to do dance-based things, but learn, research, do the work. There's so much stuff out there. There's amazing teachers locally, internationally. Yeah, just immerse yourself in it and you'll figure out what is you, because the more authentic your performances are to yourself, the more interesting it is for all of us, including you.
Mm-hmm. Wow, you're a really incredible human.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You're pretty incredible yourself.
Thank you.
What a pleasure.
No, that's okay. And what do you have coming up over the next, I don't know if you've got anything booked coming out. I know you said you've got something on the 17th of September.
Yes, absolutely. September 17th at the Triffid in Brisbane, we have the F Word, which is a celebration of 4 decades of nonsense. I've also got our student show. Our next student show is on October the 7th at Arcana in Brisbane. That's called the Bombshells Ball. So that's a fabulous celebration of students. We have 2 shows for that. And we've got classes running, there's workshops running at Bombshell Academy in Brisbane. And of course, we've got our 20% off the virtual academy for all of September with code MAD20.
First plug, I love this.
Yeah. Let's go.
Well, thank you so much for coming on my potty.
Thank you for listening to me ramble just absolutely aimlessly.
That's okay. That's all what the podcast is, really. I just ask questions and people ramble, so it's great.
Beautiful. I understood the assignment.
If you liked this episode, you can share, rate on your listening app, or follow me on Instagram. This episode was produced, recorded, and edited in Menjin, Brisbane. 1-800-Madbutt would like to pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging. Thank you.